We are recording. We are Multifamily Masters live. I'm super appreciative of everyone hopping in here. Today's program is Assisted Living Part 1. This is a multi-part series. We're going to keep today's talk to 60 minutes specifically, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So if you have any questions during this event, feel free to drop them below. Um, Number one. Number two, if you have any specific questions about anything we're talking about at that time, feel free to speak up. We try to make these so that they are discussions, not just us up here sitting, talking, preaching, and doing what we do. I'm super proud. We've been doing MFM Live since 2019. We've had 3,063 registrants to date. And for today's call specifically, we had over 75 people register. I did say that I would push out the recording to everybody. So whether you're here, whether you're not, you will get an email with the recording link. With that being said, we do these and we've had 3,000 registrants and we've never done any marketing or advertising. It's all been word of mouth. So feel free to share the registrant link with any friends, family, anyone you think that will benefit from it. We try to keep these real. We try to keep these all about real estate, not what the gurus teach you, not what the gurus tell you. And today we're going to start our series on the real side of assisted living. Today, we're going to focus specifically on operations. Number one. Number two, we're going to talk about two big mistakes that we made on our first couple of assisted living facilities, things we wish we would have known a little bit sooner, so that way you can avoid the same mistakes, learn from our mistakes, don't make the same mistakes. Um, Today we're going to kind of start off with we're going to talk about the awesome side of assisted living. We're going to talk about the real side of assisted living, and we're going to start off by talking about something that a lot of people, a lot of real estate investors may not really think about, the real why when it comes to assisted living. It's not always about the money. Yes, you got to go into business with the intent to make money. You got to go in with the intent to do the right thing. But something that's really awesome about assisted living. Last Tuesday, an 87-year-old woman, this is not her real name. I am going to call her Margaret. For HIPAA reasons, I'm not allowed to mention their real name. She mentioned that our facility saved her life, not medically, but emotionally. She said for the first time in 3 years, she feels safe, loved, and like she matters. That's an awesome feeling. Think about that. Many seniors live alone, barely visited by family. Many have zero family to visit them. And some may be living in dangerous situations because being alone affects your mental well being and oftentimes your physical. Because, as cliche as this sounds, we hear stories all the time where grandma or grandpa forgot to turn off the stove, were cooking something, walked away, fell asleep, whatever that may be. It's oftentimes a dangerous situation. So our goal is to provide a safe, loving place for seniors to call home. Sometimes they forget to take their medicine. Sometimes they fall down, and sometimes they're in their home for days before a neighbor comes and checks on them. And that's if they're lucky enough that they have a neighbor that does come check on them, you know? So yes, it's a lucrative business. But really the real why is you're serving a population that truly deserves it. And that's the sweet side of our business. Um, and ironically, the same day that Margaret told us that, we went and we deposited $43,000 in cash flow from that facility that we purchased for about $5 million a year ago. Um, so it's hard to find a business with the demand that assisted living has, doing the right thing that assisted living has, and with numbers that are as lucrative as assisted living offers. But with that being said, today's focus is you got to really run it like a business. And this series is designed to give you the real side of real estate, the real side of assisted living. And we're going to talk about what nobody else talks about or is willing to admit or even knows and understands when it comes to assisted living. We know this business because we eat, sleep, and breathe this business for the past 3 years. And I bought my first assisted living way back in 2016. Today, we're going to dig deep into operations. We're going to touch upon marketing. We're going to talk a little bit about state licensing, all things and all moving parts that you got to keep in mind on the day to day. And during this presentation, we're going to share the two biggest mistakes that almost cost us everything. And by the end of the day, you'll know exactly how to avoid them. You understand why assisted living is the last real cash flowing real estate opportunity in America right now. And we're going to talk a little bit about supply, demand, and things of that sort. Um, and the reason I say that is because apartment buildings, many of us on this call have invested into apartment buildings. You understand the struggles. Cap rates are super low, insurances are high, interest rates are rising, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whenever you buy a property at a 4 or 6 cap, it's hard to cash flow. Fix and flips. On the other hand, fix and flips, they're plentiful, but there's no barrier of entry. Any stay-at-home mom or husband who have $100,000 or a line of credit saved up, they're bidding up prices and it's hard to compete in that space. Airbnbs are struggling right now, big time. Government regulations are wiping out that market. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Um, so on today's call, we have Miss Elsa Nguyen, who has purchased $60 million in real estate over the past several years, mother of 3 living in Silicon Valley, and she's a CFO background in Silicon Valley. Been my partner on several apartment complexes where we went full cycle, and she's now my business partner on more than one assisted living community. I know, like, trust, and respect her. Same with Mr. Sanjay Patel, who has partnered with us on both apartment complexes and assisted living. Helps us out with some of the day-to-day operations, specifically some of our team building at our assisted living communities. And Sanjay and myself just talked about yesterday, and after this call, we're going to talk about it again, a land deal that he has under contract where he is interested in building a new assisted living facility in Northern Virginia. He's a proud father and very, very, very active in the Eagle Scouts. My name, Garrison Gilbert, full-time real estate investor since college. Never worked for anyone else. I've coached a few hundred people when it comes to apartments and assisted living, and I've been in and out of 2,000 apartments and done over 500 fix and flips since college. Purchased several assisted living facilities. Real estate just makes sense to me. And all three of us have spoken at some of the largest apartment complexes or apartment building conferences, huge capital raising events, and things of that sort. We currently own 2 assisted living facilities. That's where a bulk of this information is going to come from. We have a 30-bed brand new assisted living facility that we built. No reputation, no systems, no processes, no team. We started it from scratch. And during that time, we bought another community for about $5 million, a 44-bed memory care facility located about 15 minutes from facility number 1. We're very hands-on in these communities, so much so that I lived at this community during construction and during the lease-up phase. Elsa handles a lot of the oversight, licensing, bookkeeping, a lot of the day-to-day. And I'm more focused on the sales, tours, and doing anything that's needed from a boots on the ground standpoint. And I couldn't be more proud to call each of these individuals partners. So we're going to jump right into it. Feel free to ask any questions, drop your comments, drop your questions in the chat below. Feel free to put your contact information in the chat below. You know, a lot of the information that we're going to share today, it comes from firsthand experience, not something you read in a textbook, not something you pick up from going to your local bookstore, watching your infomercials, things of that sort. You know, and a lot of this stuff comes out of our coaching program where we teach other people and partner with other people when it comes to assisted living. So the information is very accurate. It's tools, systems, processes that we implemented into our business in order to make our business a lot more simplified. So we're working on our business, not in our business, on a daily basis. And we will put a link to that coaching program. We have a wait list. I'll drop the link in the comments below for anyone who wants to sign up for the wait list. Super affordable. The goal isn't to make a bunch of money from coaching. It's to teach people the right way to do this business because we want to partner with you, plain and simple. So Elsa, go ahead, take it away. Give us some information on the market and the opportunity.
Thank you, Garrison. So seniority introduced me. I don't need to go over that again, but briefly, I've worked with Garrison for almost 5 years now. I came from more of a financial background, and I did have some real estate background prior to working with Garrison, but it has been a great privilege to work with Garrison because we brought in the experience from two different angles, and together we had established, we have bought over 500 doors in multifamily, but our sole focus right now is on assisted living. So with that being said, probably most of you have known our story. We got into assisted living almost by accident. It wasn't when we bought our first project in Fresno, it was not, we did not buy that with the intention to run it as an assisted living facility, but another multifamily project. But once we got into that and we did a little bit of research on that, we just saw the needs. First of all, the properties was built that fits pretty much all the boxes to run it as an assisted living facility. And we decided to go to an assisted living conference just so that we wanted to explore and see what it's all about. So when we saw the needs, we talked to multiple people at that conference, we saw the needs there. We decided that why don't we just utilize this space to run it as an assisted living facility instead of a multifamily and rent it out to people. For once, there are tremendous needs over there. Fresno is a place where we have a lot of, so I mean, if you guys know, California is a pretty rich state in the in the Bay Area as well as down south, but Central has more people that are more on the I would say on the government assistance program, and that is kind of what our focus are. Is we want to be able to help those people who are on who doesn't have a lot of money to spend, but at the same time. They, everyone has to work. Everyone needs a safe and a safe place to live. Someone to take care of them. And we saw the needs there, and that's when we decided, hey, we're going to use this facility to run it to help those folks. So that's kind of where how we came about acquiring and establish our first assisted living facility. There were a lot of mistakes that we made along the way. Things could have been done as far as the operation, right? So looking back, I could have just, instead of just focusing on completing the projects and have it up and running, there was multiple things that we could have done differently so that by the time we're done, we could have positioned our facility in a very different angle. But with that being said, you live and you learn. We make mistakes, we learn from it. And this is what we're here for, is to share that experience with all of you. And I think you're here because you have you have interest in getting into this business, either to help other people, but at the same time, it is also a business where you can definitely, even with a 6 beds, you can definitely make a good amount of money that you can afford a pretty comfortable living if you run it right. So I don't know if that kind of cover the first question that you asked, Garrison, before I pass it back to you.
Go ahead. You want to go ahead and give some statistics on assisted living, baby boomers, things of that sort?
Sure. Let me go ahead and pull that thing up right now, if you don't mind. But I know off the top of my head, we have about what 10,000 people turn 65 a day right now. And that is a big number of people. So lots of people that are turning 65. And this is the first year where the number of those baby boomers turn 80. This is the first year where those numbers are starting to rack up. And 80 is the age when people are starting. I mean, when you turn 65, you're entering that retirement age, but 80, well, I say most of our residents starting to check out around the age of 75-ish. That's when a lot of them starting to kind of being forgetful. Memory is a big issue right now, dementia. We have a lot of people come and they're starting to forget things. So 75 is kind of when they're starting to shop around, and um, 80 is when they full blown like I need help. So
And
with
this is the first
so
year
those
that baby boomers hit 80 years old, which is a big opportunity in this space.
right. Um, and some of the statistic, I mean, this is you can, it's pretty fairly easy to do a search, and then you can just get all that information. But that's one of the main reason we just see that needs, right? There's just so many people. There are more. Actually, I was reading an article, and the sales of reef, like adult diapers, exceeded the sales of baby diapers nowadays. Um, so as you can see, that the needs out there, and not everyone is lucky enough to have someone, living at home to take care of them. And this is what we're there for. Um, so, beside that, there's just, because of the difficulty in obtaining permits, building permits and all that. So the needs for the supplies is not fast enough to meet the demand. When we built our facility in Fresno, we bought. I mean, it was pretty much already done. To be honest with you, when we bought it in 2022 or 23, the house was everything was already built. But even that, it took us almost 2 years to get the occupancy for it. So as you can imagine, if you start something from scratch, it will take a very, very long time. So you need to take that into consideration, holding costs and all that. But with that being said, construction is just not keeping pace with the demand right now. And so, with that being said, it's also create a lot of it's really tight. The market is really tight right now. There's a huge shortage of beds. Um, so, just want to, so that's something that's also make us feel like, well, this is it's a great opportunity for us to get into it right now, especially if we could just get something already up and running, we just take it over, and then we just improve it and make it better. And there are people, like when we bought our Elam place, um, people were burned out. Like the owner who ran it, she just got so tired. She got burned out. It's a great facility. People love it. And just because it's been around for so long. So when we took over, it's actually fairly easy for us um, to manage that facility just because of the property has been established and people already know about it. Um, yeah, so that's as far as the numbers, yes. And I don't know if you have anything else to add to it, but I mean, right now, if I have to look at some numbers right now, there's um, about 80 million people, 80 million baby boomers that are entering the age of senior housing. And
And right now, a lot of the analysis suggests that the US needs about 100,000 new beds each and every single year from now until 2040. Um, and right now, under construction, there's only about 4,000 new beds per year. So you can do the math where prices are going to be rising, demand is going to be rising, yet the supply is at a very stagnant level, which creates a lot of opportunity. Um, Average price per bed across the board is anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 per month, which is a high number. That's why a lot of seniors are on the government programs that Elsa mentioned a little bit ago.
yeah. So
Yeah, one of the questions they had is the facility we have in Fresno, is that private pay or is that government or is that on government programs? So
We
it's
do
a
a
really good
combination of
question.
both. Yeah, we do a combination of both. Government pay is always a little bit more. We like to say that it's kind of like Section 8 for real estate investors. Um, Except for you don't have to be as broke or down and out as it may sound. You just don't have enough money to sustain an $8,000, $10,000 a month payment. but we accept both private pay and government pay. And there's benefits and drawbacks to each of those, but in general, we haven't had issues with non-collection and things of that sort across the board with either private or government pay. Anything else you want to add to that, Elsa?
Um, No, I don't. Yeah, so mostly actually when we bought the facility, most of them were actually, I would say, private pay. We are shifting it now more toward the government sponsor program. There are a few out there, and we try to help them even with the folks who are in there right now that private pay, and we know that they're running out of money. So we look and we assess their situation, and then we try to find programs that help them transition over. So then that way, they don't have to be forced to leave the facility. So that's one of the nice thing about California is that there are money out there for the folks who need it, and I personally try to, I'm exploring those programs so then I can help more people. Um, so
And
we're
every state
shifting.
has their own array of programs. So don't just kind of bottle it down to a California thing. Every state has
Right,
programs. You got to learn what your state has, what your state offers. And there's programs through the state, number one. There are programs through insurance companies, number two. And then there's programs through Medi-Cal, Medicaid, things of that sort as well that you can utilize.
exactly. Yeah. So um,
Right there, I know there's differences in each state, and that's one of the things I'm learning about Virginia as opposed to California as well, some of
mhm,
the differences. And it's very important to understand what those are. So,
exactly. Yeah. By the way, Garrison, did you introduce Sanjay yet?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Sorry, I made up.
A long time ago, Elsa.
Did you?
Um,
Okay.
so go ahead, Elsa. Go ahead down your list of items that you wanted to touch upon, and then I'll go ahead and take it over about staffing.
Sure. So that's just pretty much. I mean, Sanjay, are there other questions that are out there that I can answer, or should I just
Uh,
move on to the next topic?
one of the questions was someone was asking a little bit about the process to get to start one or to get certifications, etc. So that's a bit involved, but I don't know if that's something we want to talk about right now.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a really good question. And that's when I started this, even though we have extensive experience in real estate, getting into uh, assisted living was really a whole new, game plan for us. So I actually did reach out and hire a consultant to walk us through the process too. But I would start by researching licensing with your own state wherever you are. So Google it and see what requirements they will they need to get it to apply for a license. So you will get if Google has a lot of information, so just probably just Google it, and then from there, I would once you Google, you find a website, you go in there, you look through the details to see what will the requirements are. But out the gate, I know that besides like some state would, if you run it from a home, like in California, a house will only allow to have 6 beds, licensed for 6 beds max, but some state would allow for 8, some would allow for 10. So I would definitely, look into that requirements. And then something that you want to take into consideration is that I mean, they don't have the requirement for like 2-story or 1-story, but something that you want to keep in mind because most of the people, once they get into your facility, they will be on wheelchair or they will be on walkers. So it's going to be really hard for them to go up and down the stair. So you want to make sure that the property that you're looking at, if it's a small one, the hallways are wide enough. The floor are even. You don't have to step down off the floor. So those are some of the things that you may want to look into. And then of course, here in California, it's a very thick application that I have to fill out. I also hire some people to do that for me. Now I can do it on my own, but you want to fill it out. You want to fill it out complete so that um, otherwise, if you miss something, they're going to come back to you. So instead of a 6 month process, now it's going to be a 9 months or 12 months process because you go back and forth on the errors that you made. So you want to make sure that the application that you fill out is precise, very accurate. And I myself went ahead and registered to learn how to run the facility. So I get my administrative license, and I did that just so that I want to learn the rules and the regulation and how to run it myself, even though we hire people later to manage it for me. But I feel that it's important for us to really know the laws as well. So
And
those are some of the things.
I was going to say,
Go
and
ahead.
something that Elsa just touched upon is there's kind of three categories of assisted living that you can think about whenever you're going to buy a facility or get into a facility. Number one is kind of a 6 or 8 bed, which is a smaller facility. A facility where it's almost a residential house in a residential neighborhood, and you don't have to get zoning variances and things of that sort. Very easy to get into that type of space. Barrier of entry is small. Um, but whenever you're only dealing with 6 or 8 residents, it's almost like apartments where you got to keep it very full in order to hit your numbers. The middle-sized properties, which is what we invested in thus far, for the most part, are 30, 40, 50 beds. They're too big for kind of a caregiver type of person to buy, too small for the big institutional investor, normally in the $5 million range or so. A lot of apartment building individuals can jump into something like that through syndications and whatnot. And then the larger asset class, 150 beds, bigger, larger, more institutional type of investors, things of that sort. So that's kind of three asset classes that you can think of throughout the assisted living world. I just want to touch upon that real quick, Elsa.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
also keep in mind, when I can spend 3 hours on the topic of getting prepared for it. But there are also multiple things that you can do. So assisted living is just one of it, right? So you can, there are uh, there are independent living, memory care. So those are the couple other categories, but there's also um, adult care facility, right? That you can also look into, which is kind of related, but they're not. And so those are the things that you may want to explore to see what's best fit for you. Some of the things that you want to take into consideration, whether it's a 6 bed facility or 30 beds or 100 beds, if the fire marshal plays a very significant role in it. So you always want to have a fire marshal to come out to walk the facility. You have to pay them, but they'll give you a pretty good idea of what needs to be done to make it approved by licensing. So that's
And
something that you.
depending on how many beds that facility is, depends on whether you need sprinkler systems, whether you need a full-time kitchen staff, and some of the operations part of it as well.
Garrett, Garrison, do you have full-time staff like chef in your facility? Who full-time home health care staff, caregivers? How many people you guys hired or have them work full-time? Or what kind of seniors you guys accept? Like, are they mobile or they need assistance? Those are just my quick questions.
If
Yeah,
everyone,
no,
so whoever, I mean, we have people who can just walk and doesn't need assistance with anything. So there would very much be, and we call them independent. But we also help bedbound people where you need to even turn them. You have to do everything for them. So it's really depend. With RCFE, they have to meet the sorry about that. The age requirement to be in the facility. So they, otherwise they would not be accepted into an RCFE. So, and then it's also depend whether you're in a 6 bed or a 15 or 16 bed. So licensing has different requirements for that. If you are over 16, then you are required to have at least a full-time chef full-time activity directors, you need to have that. But if you are under 16, then you don't need to. You can just hire a one person who kind of just manage everything. So it's really come down to, again, that's when I meant when you have to explore the requirements. You need to decide, first of all, um, what kind of bed size, how many beds do you want? Do you want a small, medium, or large? From there, you dive into the requirement for each of those category. But yeah, you need,
So,
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Elsa.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say for our facilities to specifically answer your question, Elsa and myself kind of oversee the big picture, right? We're the owners, we're the operators, we're the license holders, things of that sort. We have a director under us who reports directly to us. One of our facilities has one director, Jessica. The other facility has two directors, a director and an assistant director, Maria and Christina. Under them, they then have a complete staff of caregivers, housekeepers, kitchen staff. Our kitchen staff, I think we have 3 or 4 individuals, caregivers. We have anywhere from 15 to 25. Some are part-time, some are full-time, but we provide, and all of our facilities, most facilities are going to provide around-the-clock care 24/7. So we always have 2 to 3 caregivers on staff at any given time. We always have an activities director during the daytime with activities going on. And we always have full-time kitchen staff that provide breakfast, nutritious breakfast, lunch, dinner, as well as snacks in between. And then on top of that, we have med techs who provide medicine. We are not permitted or allowed to do injections or things of that sort, but we give them their medicine. We make sure that they get their medicine on time, the right medication, the right dosages, etc. We can't force the medication. We give them a cup of pills, for example, a glass of water, they take it, we make sure that they swallow it, they don't spit it out, they don't throw it under the bed, etc. Things of that sort. So that's kind of what the staffing looks like on a daily basis, as well as we have 2 virtual assistants who answer the phones, handle the emails, schedule tours, showings, calls, things of that sort. So that's kind of what the entire team looks like from top to bottom, Miss Brown.
Also, how did you guys get clients? Did you guys reach out to hospitals, or you advertise? What did you guys do?
All of the above.
Everything.
Oh,
Everything.
okay.
Everything. That is the biggest part of this business. And that's actually one of the biggest mistakes that I was going to go over. Whenever I jumped into this space, I would go out and network at these events, and I come from a real estate world where it's like, hey, I own 2,000 apartments. Let's do deals. Let's do that. And when I jumped into assisted living and I went out and started networking with all these individuals, they didn't care that I wanted to buy 10 facilities. They only care about that I'm going to do the right thing with seniors, and nobody knew us. Nobody trusted us. So we had to build that reputation, and took a lot longer than expected. But we went out and we built reputations with placement agencies, insurance companies, some of the government programs that we talked about. The government programs we talk about, you don't just sign up for a government program and your facility fills up. They still send people your way. And then it's your job to build the relationship with the individual's family so that they know, like, and trust you and want to move into your facility. We built relationships with skilled nursing facilities, and we build relationships with other assisted living facilities. It's not as aggressive or competitive as you might think. Oftentimes, we get referrals from other assisted living facilities because different facilities have different focuses or specialize in different type of individuals. And sometimes if someone can't handle that individual, maybe we can. Or if sometimes we can't handle a certain senior because of medicines or aggressive behavior, whatever that might look like, we know someone or have an outlet that we could refer that individual over to. So it's a lot of give and take in this business, and it's really working hand in hand with a lot of other individuals in this space. And one of the biggest mistakes we made was, I thought, especially the one we built, I thought we were going to put this big banner outside, this big phone number, here's our website, boom, let's fill it up. It was not like that at all. It's really a relationship type of business. And we should have started networking a year before we opened our doors, and we waited until we opened our doors, which was a huge mistake and cost us a lot of money, time, energy, and effort. And it was things that we just didn't quite know and understand. We thought you build it, they will come, and it wasn't quite like that.
And
Do you agree with that, Elsa?
Garrison,
100%.
that's one of the things that I've taken from what you've talked about is here in Northern Virginia, I've started that networking. And one of
Yeah.
the things I found is as you're talking to the different facility managers and everything, it's more the story of why you're involved with assisted living as opposed to, yes, I know how to acquire properties and things like that. It's very important that the folks understand the story of why you want to be in assisted living, and that really helps in building those relationships. I've been able to talk to a few people that do the senior placement and things like that here in Northern Virginia, and they've started inviting me to different networking opportunities here even before we have our first facility here in Northern Virginia. So that's actually a very good lesson that I've been able to take from you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I had to go back and I had a redo card and could redo anything in this business, that would be the number one thing that I would change or switch up. Elsa, do you agree or disagree or anything you want to add to that?
No, I definitely agree with that. I think, and it's a continuous something that you have to keep on, like building up. Like you never stop networking. You never stop reaching out to people and let them know that, like for me right now, every week I would, send out emails or I call, I would text different people that I know and I say, hey, I still have vacant beds right here. Have you have anyone, just send it always, right? So because sometimes they forget. I mean, they like a social service manager, like social managers, they would send you somebody, but then they also have other facility that they work with. So if you're not, on their face and let them know, hey, we still have beds, they'll tend to forget about you. So those are the relationship that you have to continue to build and establish. And from time to time, when weather allow, we would host networking events and stuff like that. And we invite all of them to come. Just, for one, to just mingle and have fun. And two is, to let them tour our facility. The resident love it. Every time we have a party like that, they get super excited.
Yeah,
um,
every month we throw a happy hour. One month we'll do it at facility one month facility two, and we go back and forth. Because we want to stay in everyone's forefront. We want people to remember us, think about us whenever they come across a senior who needs assisted living or memory care. And Miss Brown, to go back to kind of mention something else that you asked about, we have seniors of all levels. Some individuals need absolutely nothing. Um, and they still pay 5, 6, 7,000 a month. They just want to make sure they get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they have someone kind of making sure that nothing crazy happens. And then we have other individuals on the opposite ends of the spectrum who they're bed bound. One lady had 2 broken legs. She was called respite. She only came to live with us for 2, 3 months, but she had 2 broken legs, couldn't get out of her bed. And we did absolutely everything for her, from taking her to the restroom, giving her showers, bringing meals to her room, etc. So we really try to have a wide array of individuals at our communities, and we try to provide a place that if they're in facility A right now, the assisted living facility, and most people then transfer over eventually someday they start to have memory issues, or we then have a memory care facility that we can then transition them over to, and we kind of keep everybody in-house to some degree.
Thank you.
I think a couple of people joined a bit late. They were asking about number of beds. One of the things that Garrison went over was there's facilities of a lot of different. There's residential facilities with like 5 to 6, as many as 8 beds, and then there's larger facilities as many as 150. So, number of rooms or beds is not sort of a barrier. It really depends on how you want to do it.
Mhm.
No, you can buy a single family house that has a 6 bed facility, and if you run it right, you can profit $10,000, $15,000 a month positive cash flow. You think about that, that's off of a single family house. That's more lucrative than most 50, 60 unit apartment complexes for a lot of investors. A lot of apartment investors would love to be making 10, 15,000 a month. And you can do it off of a single family residence in the assisted living world. And you don't need zoning variances, you don't need special grants or anything from the city. You just buy a residential house in a residential neighborhood, and your guidelines, for the most part, are you're allowed to run a 6 bed facility. The middle-sized facilities, 30, 40, 50 bed facilities, that's our sweet spot. They're too big that caregivers typically don't buy them. They're too small that the big boys don't buy them. And then Elsa and myself and Sanjay, we bought a couple of those within a close proximity, and then we're able to build the bigger systems and the processes and run them a lot more efficient than if we just had one. And generally speaking, that's about a $5 million property. And then the big boys are 150 units or so. And that's when you're competing with the big institutional investors and people that own 30, 40, 50 facilities. And they're really honed in on that. But then the problem is you buy those at such a compressed cap rate that your margin of error is a lot smaller. So that's a couple
Right.
of things to think about. It seems sexy, like, hey, let's go buy a 200 bed assisted living facility. Um, but you almost get stuck into that apartment building world where cap rates are compressed, and it's tougher to make the numbers work. You
Right.
have less room for error.
And where you do it can also make a difference there. There are certain states that you end up with the compressed cap rates, and it's hard to sort of
Hmm.
you're looking for every efficiency you can, which honestly is not the type of facility I'd want to run anyway. I'd rather have something where we can. It's more about the comfort of the residents and still make the cash flow that we need to. So.
Yeah. So
And
Elsa
do
and I,
your research.
oh, go ahead,
Do a
Elsa.
bit
Go
of
ahead.
research before location is really one of the key in this business. So I highly recommend that you do a little bit of research on the location before you decide to drop the money there. Just even if you're gonna buy a house and do a 6 bed, I would always go to the city first and ask them if they are allowed for you to run it as an assisted living. It could have been in a HOA community where they say no, we don't want it here. So always check with the city first, and then do some demographic research to see what kind of, like, do you have, how many people, how many assisted living facilities are out there. It could be very competitive, or you have to look at, so underwriting is a big thing in this business as well. So the location also ties to the kind of resident that you're going to have. So if you are in a higher end neighborhood, then of course you can charge a lot more. But if that's the case, if they're willing to pay $18,000 a month, then they want a bigger room, they want a nicer neighborhood. But if you are going to more of a lower end a neighborhood, then you cannot expect to get 18,000 a month. You have to looking at, getting 4 or 5,000 a month when you underwrite a number. So depend on the state. Again, I'm just throwing our numbers out there. So you're gonna have to really accurately, analyze the market, the demographic, and see what kind of income you're getting. Because you cannot just, think that, oh, I'm going to get $18,000 a month, I'm going to buy this really cheap house in this, crappy neighborhood, and then think that people are going to put their loved ones in there. It doesn't work that way.
And
Mystery shop, mystery shop, mystery shop. Know your competition, know the other facilities in the area for sure. We went and visited probably 30, 40 facilities whenever we were starting our first one. We visited small ones, medium ones, and large ones. We wanted to see what services did they offer, what pricing models did they have. Was their pricing all inclusive, or were there surprises? Did they include haircuts and day trips and things of that sort? We wanted to really get a good feel for it because we wanted to know what we wanted to offer and what we had to quote unquote compete with.
And also different, one of the things I found here in Virginia is they're actually starting to make it a little bit harder for residential assisted living to get certifications, just because there's a lot of them starting to pop up and they're becoming a little more stringent about it.
Yeah.
So that where you're located and where your what the environment is can make a difference as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And like I understand, we were looking at a facility in North Carolina about 3, 4 years ago. And in North Carolina, they only issue so many licenses a year.
Thank you.
So if those are taken up, people would come in and they would try to claim those licenses. So when you come in and you have the facility, you have everything, but they run out of license to give you. So you end up with a facility, but then you cannot get the license. So every state, again, has different rules and regulation. You definitely want to do the research before you secure the real estate.
See, one of the questions, can properties be single level or multi-floor? It really depends on the jurisdiction you're in, also how big a facility you have. There's large facilities that have many floors and they'll segment the level of care also by floor as well. So,
Right.
And
Yeah.
it
So I mean,
depends on
if
the
you are
elevator
in,
setup and the size of that facility. Go ahead, Elsa.
yeah, like
Right.
elevator, if you're multiple floor, you need to have an elevator. But if you run it a small facility, best that is one level or even, because remember, most of this resident will be on wheelchair or they're gonna use a walker. They can barely walk. So multiple levels is not recommended if it's a small facility or it's a home-based business.
And one other question, how do you vet caregivers and do we have any registered nurses on staff? So,
We do not have any registered nurses. We have caregivers, and caregivers have to pass CPR, background checks, things of that sort. How do we vet caregivers? That is a very detailed process and something that is never ending. Um, I'm actually shocked at what caregivers make on an hourly basis. Um, it's much lower than what I would have ever imagined. If I was going to be a caregiver, I think I would choose to go work at fast food, just because I don't want to be thinking about this when I go home. I don't think I would be able to leave my work at work for the amount of money that they get paid. I don't think I could do that job. Um, but we have a continuous process where we are constantly hiring. We're very fortunate that our second facility that we bought's been around since 1991, and many of the staff, many of the caregivers have been there 5, 10, 15 years. That's a rarity in this business. A lot of caregivers come and go. A lot of them have a lifespan of 2, 3, 4 months, and they switch jobs. They're always looking for something better, and I can't blame them. But we're continuously hiring them. We have ads out all the time, and we have a very detailed interview process. Every Monday, I interview 30 to 40 caregivers. I interviewed over 600 caregivers myself before we hired 20 or so. A lot of individuals, and I think of it this way. Number one, who do I want to hang out with? Who do I want to surround myself with? Is this someone that I would want touching my mother? I got into this space originally because I was forced into a position that I had to figure out how to take care of my mother at a pretty early age. And it always comes back to even our meal preps. Is this a food that I would want my mother eating? Is this the type of meals, the type of quality I would want my mother having, or Elsa's father? The caregivers, is this someone I would want touching my mother? Is this someone I would want taking care of my mother? Is this someone that I would trust being around my loved one whenever it's just a one-on-one type of situation? It's very tough. Uh, it's a very tough process, but you got to be very thorough with it. And really, it boils down just getting to know someone, um, really getting a good feel for them. There is no right or wrong way to it. It's just a vibe. It's a gut feeling, and sometimes we're wrong. Most of the time, we're right. Uh, General process is hire slow, fire fast. We don't really fire people, but we remove them off the schedule. Um, and we have a 90-day probationary period where we look over their shoulder and make sure that they're doing this business the right way and that they're willing to learn. Gossip is a big thing in this business that we don't tolerate, because you got to remember that these caregivers are around these seniors all day long, and the vibes that they give off, the drama that they bring from home inside of our communities transfers over to these seniors, and it's something that we can't have. Anything else you want to add to that, Elsa?
Yeah, so this is something that you guys want to take into consideration before you decide, like, I want to open a 6 beds or a 30 bed facility. If
Yeah.
you open a 6 or 8 bed, most likely you will have one caregiver per shift, right? One person can take care of 6 people, not a problem. But so you will have 3 full-time staff a day. We 25 hours a day. We have one person work 8 hours, so 3 shifts. But keep in mind, if one of the staff call in sick, then guess who gonna step up to cover that shift? It'll be you. Okay, so that's gonna make it very challenging in terms of staffing. So always have a backup plan, especially if you operate a small AOF. Um, on the other hand, if you run a 20, 30, 40, 50 beds facility, you will most likely need 3, 4, 5 staff per shift. So if one person calls sick, no problem. You still kind of stretch yourself a little bit, but at least you as the owner don't have to step in and cover that. I've know a lot of owners that own 6 bed, they have to work when the staff call in. So if you're not prepared for that, it's something that you definitely need to take into consideration. And the truth is that, a lot of caregivers who does this work, they do it for the love of the seniors, just because it's hard work. Sometimes you have to change their roof, you have to cook for them, you got to bathe them. It's not easy job. And for the pay that they're getting, it's a lot. So they do it because they love the seniors, they have the heart for it. But at the same time, also because of the hard work that they have to deal with, there will be a lot of turnover. Probably turnover is one of the biggest thing in this business and when it comes to staffing. So keep that in mind and always have a lot of backup just in case.
And something that Elsa mentioned was with a 6 bed facility, a smaller residential style, yes, you can make 10, 12,000 a month off of a single family house, but the problem is it's hard to have systems and processes in such a small facility. So something we teach and preach about with all of our coaching students is if you're going to do a 6 bed residential style facility, we call it a 3-pack. My opinion is you really need to have 3 of them within 15, 30 minutes of one another. So that way you're able to build systems and processes and play off of one another. Because if a caregiver calls in sick, I need to be able to pull someone from another facility. And if I just have one of those, I don't have backups because I don't have the available hours for someone just to sit around and hope that someone calls in sick. And I don't want to be the guy that gets called in on a Saturday afternoon. And the true story, whenever we were starting our 30 bed, we only had 4 or 5 residents, 2 months into it. A caregiver called in at 1:50 p.m. on a Saturday and said, "Mr. Garrison, I can't come today. I have a family reunion at 2 o'clock." It's like, that's 10 minutes from now. You didn't know that you had a family reunion this morning or yesterday or the day before. Like, that's BS. Um, that was the last day that lady worked for us. But I had to step in, and I'm not a caregiver, not at all. I cannot do that. I don't have that skill level, or that skill set. But I had to step in and I had to cook meals and do what we had to do for several hours before the person at the next shift came in several hours early, and the person earlier stayed a couple hours later. But then that cost us overtime pay. So that's some things you got to think about and some systems you got to build and processes you got to build whenever you're deciding what size facilities you want to run and operate.
So,
Yeah.
there is a question about what the compensation is,
For caregivers,
yeah.
Really
$17 an
depend on
hour.
it depend on their experience. So those who come in with more experience, we pay them more. There are some that come in and they very happy with minimum wage. So it really depend on the works that we do, and we do promote people from within too. So I would promote a caregiver to like a house managers. And I think I saw Julie post a question whether or not we offer insurance. We do. So we do offer insurance to our employee. We offer PTO. And this is some of the things that we do. I know a lot of assisted living facilities, the smaller ones don't. I decided that even though we're small too, that it's something that I guess reduce the turnover rate. I do offer PTO, I do offer sick time, I do offer 401k as well as insurance for them. And nobody really sign up for the insurance, but they do participate in, and we do offer holiday pay as well. But again, it's an equation that you need to balance because, beside staffing and salary, you got to pay, there are workers' compensation that you have to pay. You got to pay for insurance, right? You got to pay for liability insurance. You have to pay for property insurance. You have to pay for food, and supplies. So there's a lot of expenses that associate with it. So you need to be able to balance it out because yes, I would love to overpay my staff, take really good care of them, but then you may end up being short every month. So it's something that you have to play with the number, balance it out. I want to give people overtime, but again, overtime you pay time and a half, sometimes you pay double. So now your number is kind of, out of whack too. So from the financial angle, it has to make sense as well.
And then we had one question about how much does assisted living usually cost per month and what affects the price? So
Assisted living in general across the board is anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 a month, depending on what state you're in. Is that the question, Sanjay?
The pay
yes, I believe
or the
so.
cost?
Cost per
The
month.
cost, like for a resident?
Right. At least that's the
Four
way
to
I'm
eight,
interpreting the question. Alex
yeah,
Santos is the one that asked.
for $4,000 to $8,000 a month across the board in general. Our facilities, for example, our assisted living, it has a $3,700 base. That's for you to move in our facility. And then depending on what level of care you require, so the more care you require, the more you pay. And there's 3, 4 levels of care. And whenever our administrator goes down and does the assessment on the individual, that determines their exact cost and the level based upon the level of care that we associate them with. So if someone's bedbound, they pay more than someone who sits around, smokes cigarettes all day and walks all around and doesn't really need much.
Okay. And for Julie, these can be either private or shared rooms. Usually,
So I
they're
have a rate for both private and share. And normally when they tour the property and they like, okay, I like it, I want to move in, we sit down, we do an assessment of the resident first to see what kind of care they need. And then from there, we quote them the price. So there's, there are two prices, like we often say there's room and board, which is like a set price. If you want to stay in a semi-private room, this is the room and board rate plus the level of care. If you want to stay in a private room yourself, of course, you got to pay a little bit more. So we would go over that with them. But in general, it from $4,000 to $8,000. We're working with some government sponsor program that could possibly pay a little bit more than that, but that's rare. So I wouldn't, if you were to do your analysis, I would not count that as a regular income. I would just do maybe one person that pay a little bit like a bedbound person. They could pay up to, I know facility charge up to 17,000 a month for a bedbound person, but again, they don't live very long. They may just live a month and they'll pass away. So you cannot just count on having a bedbound person all the time in your facility to get that kind of income.
And whenever you have a facility, certain rooms and certain beds are designated as ambulatory, meaning the person can get up and walk around and they're not wheelchair bound or bed bound. There's non-ambulatory where they might be in a wheelchair. And that would be a little bit more expensive than an ambulatory person. And then there's bed bound. And then there, on top of that, there's hospice. Generally speaking, a hospice person is going to live 2 to 6 months, probably more so 2 to 4 months. And there's extra fees for that as well, because there's a lot of extra care that goes into that as well. And this is all stuff that I did not know prior to getting in this business. This is stuff you learn along the way and you network with other people who are in this space and things of that sort. Any other questions, Mr. Sanjay?
And as far
Uh,
as hospice and non-ambulatory or ambulatory beds, all those have to be approved first by licensing before you can. So licensing may give you 10 hospice, 5 hospice, so you need to ask them, and you cannot take more than that. And as far as ambulatory, non-ambulatory beds, it's the same. They need to come, they need to do the inspection before they give you the okay to like, okay, you can have 18 non-ambulatory resident in here, or so on and so forth.
Yeah. Go ahead, Julie. I
Uh,
see you raised your hand.
yeah.
Actually, I'm Barbara. I don't know, Julie, did you have a question, hey?
No,
Oh,
no, you go ahead, because
All right,
you,
thanks,
yeah.
Julie.
Uh-huh.
So, I have quite a bit of experience with this because my sister was in 2 different residential care homes, and I had to make sure that hospice was available. But when hospice gets involved, that's not something that the care facility paid for. Hospice was part of her insurance. So why would you charge more? Because the
Because
It
because
depends. So if you have insurance that pays for it, but not all insurance company would pay for it. So we do have hospice right now that 100% private pay. And then we have people that go from independent into hospice as well. They have a fall, they come back, and now they were going from a level 2 into a level 4 hospice because of the fall. So things change, but I have residents that both pay by insurance company and as well as private pay.
Mhm.
And,
Thank
and
you.
one of our hospice agencies is actually on this call right now. Whenever someone moves in our facility in their hospice, hospice will come and do what they have to do, and we call them to come and do what they have to do on an as needed basis. But our caregivers have to perform a lot more duties, spend a lot more time with that particular resident, so that compensates for the amount of time spent with that resident, to answer your question.
Yeah, I'd like to know what systems you have in place to oversee the caregivers, because I had some incidences that were less than ideal and desirable. And I'd really like to know what what you have in place to protect your clients, your residents.
Sure. Well, first off, right above the caregiver, we have a floor man. We have a shift manager, um, depending on what shift it is, and then we have a floor manager. The floor manager specifically knows the residents inside and out, everything about those residents, knows what those residents are feeling, make sure those residents are loved, etc. So there's always constant communication back and forth and oversight on those caregivers. Those caregivers in general are not just, hey, go do your job and we hope that you do it. So we have shift managers, we have a floor manager. On top of that floor manager, our administrator is there 40, 50, 60 hours a week. On top of that, then we have the educational programs. Go ahead, Elsa. You want to talk about the educational part of it?
Well, every caregiver before they can work for any AOF or any of, assisted living facility or memory care, they have to have 40 hours of training before they do that. And we are, just because our facilities are bigger, they're not in a house with 6 residents and we'll never check on them. So I don't know, where your loved ones stay, but for us, we have multiple people in our facility, so it will be very hard if we had a case where a resident has been neglected, because residents walk around the facility. We always check on them. We have 3, 4 people on the floor all the time. We have the managers, we have the house managers, so there'll always be people. We have med techs who, when they give meds to the resident, they need to log in the system. So I would open up my apps and I'm like, hey, you didn't give the 8 o'clock meds to such and such person. And they go, oh, I forgot to log in. So we check on them. And then also if you run a facility that are 16 or more resident, the state required that you have to have a resident council. So resident actually have their own group. They can meet together, they can discuss, and then they'll come to you. The ombudsman check on them all the time. We have ombudsman that come once a month to check on the resident. They talk to the resident. And so it's pretty hard for for us not to neglect them because they will speak up.
Yeah, that's more ideal. My sister was in small house facilities, and maybe they had 5 or 6 residents at a time there. So I
Yeah,
don't
that's
think
So for
understandable.
I didn't.
For
I don't
example,
think.
just last week we had an LPA who was kind of the governing oversight individual with assisted living. They came and did a surprise inspection, and they literally went around and interviewed every single person at the facility, every single resident, and said, "Hey, how do you like living here? How's the food? How's the activities? Are you mistreated? Are you happy? Do you love being here?" And all of that type of stuff. So there's a lot of different parameters in place. To combat exactly what you just kind of mentioned and described. So I'm kind of surprised, even in a small facility, that you had that experience.
Oh, it was pretty awful. They had
I'm
they
Yeah.
had
sorry
a
to hear
resident.
that.
Yeah, they had a resident there that was violent, and I was not told that she was violent. She obviously had Alzheimer's and was very aggressive and attacked my sister. She tried to
Oh,
strangle one of the other residents. It just was a really very unhappy situation, and
oh,
that's just the part of it.
oh my
Sure.
gosh. Yeah, I'm
And
so
in
sorry to
regards to
hear
that,
that.
because of the size of our facilities, we're able to kind of group people together. And I'm not going to say wings, but in certain areas, we're able to group people together that seem to have similar backgrounds, similar needs, similar wants, things of that sort. Like on Sundays, a lot of people just sit around and watch football. Some people hate football. And I use that as a very generic example, but we really try to group people together so that it creates the best living environment for them as well, right? Um, so a couple of different things that you can do there. Go ahead, anything else, Barbara, before I move on to the next person?
Well, first of all, where exactly are your facilities placed? Are you in California? I wasn't here at the very beginning. I apologize for that. But
Yeah,
where do you
we are in
operate?
the we're in the Fresno, California area with
Okay.
our facilities right now.
Mhm.
And I've
Okay.
owned facilities in Maryland as well and Washington, D.C. area.
Okay. Well, thank you for all of this wonderful information. Appreciate it.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome.
Mr. Anthony Flowers, hit me.
Yes, so you kind of touch on some of the, I guess, the oversight that is in place to make sure that the residents are well taken care of. But you also make a mention that these are for larger facilities. It sounds like, as far as you having the state or probably come through and do on-site visits like that. For myself, I'm looking at opening up something that's 6 or less beds. So I want to know, is there any, it just came to me here, so I'm still formulating this question. Is there any on the market technology that's in place that can be implemented in your home other than just cameras to possibly, secure and allow the resident to have maybe their family member be able to sign in on a camera and be able to view them in the common area, and just throughout the day, just checking on them to make them feel comfortable without you having to have a human in the loop.
There are different programs and systems out there. Um, we're actually in beta testing right now, a text program, which is kind of not exactly what you asked, but along those same lines. So let me touch upon something you did say. You said that you think in a smaller facility that licensing and stuff will not come and do those type of inspections. You're 100% wrong. Licensing will come and do surprise inspections, and ombudsman will come and do surprise inspections on no matter what size facility you are, if you're a licensed facility. To answer your question in regards to cameras, things of that sort, something we're beta testing right now is an AI program that we designed and developed for residents to be able to text back and forth and talk back and forth with AI where it seems like a real person. You would never know that it's not a real person. Like we have some individuals who just love to get on the phone and talk, and they don't care who they're talking to. And a lot of them call 911 often. So we came up with a phone program and a text program where it's almost like they have an AI agent. They don't know it's AI. That AI agent will remember everything that they've spoken to that individual about, and they'll be able to have ongoing conversations. So it's kind of like you get a friend in a box type of situation. Other than that, cameras are good and bad, depending on who you ask in this space. A lot of facilities don't want cameras, don't allow cameras. A lot of family members don't want cameras. So you got to be careful with that. There's a lot of guidelines with the video cameras and things of that sort. There are some TV programs and stuff set up where family members can watch the same TV show that the resident is watching, and they can communicate back and forth through the TV, almost like a Zoom, but it pops up on your television. Other than that, there's not a lot of other programs that I know of or can think of right now to specifically answer your question.
Yeah, I think if you run a 6-bed, you just have to be as the owner, you have to be a little bit more involved. I would suggest that, you know, if you don't work there, at least go there 2-3 times a week, talk to the resident. Normally you would have, unless you are the administrator, then you should be there pretty much regularly. Otherwise, you will probably have one caregiver per shift, have the administrator work from there too. So at least you have 2 people in the facility all the time. But I think the best way to pull information is just to have a relationship with the resident. They're old, but you know, they're not dumb. So they'll tell you if something wrong, and you just have to pay attention to them a little bit more. You would be able to know whether or not they, you know, they are been taken care of. Another thing that we do at our facility is that we have a list of like things that we need to check on the resident every day. So let's say
Every shift has their own
every
list.
shift has a list, like, did you take her to the bathroom? Did you shower her today? Did you give her her meal? So we have a daily to-do list, and the caregivers, whoever worked that shift, supposed to be like initial that, okay. And if they refuse, then they just say, you know, resident refused to do that, and they're initial it. So then that way, when I look at that, I know that they have been taken care of. Like they, you know, this person has been off a shower, you know, or not. So it's one way for us to kind of track the things, whether or not the caregiver has been lazy or not.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good question.
Is your caregivers has license or training or certification?
Yes, yes, and yes. Before a caregiver is able to be hired on in a facility, they have to pass the background check. And then they have to perform a certain amount of training hours, hands-on training and book hours. So all of that stuff has to be done before they can be onboarded.
Yeah, so 40 hours the first year and 20 hours after that, every year, annually 20 hours.
Is that provided by you guys or a school?
So they would normally do about 16 to 20 hours in-person training, shadow. So they'll come, they'll shadow someone else. We teach them what to do. And then the other 20 hours, they would train online, and they would choose from topic from how to deal with dementia resident to risk, you know, risk and safety, infection control. So there are a number of topics that they can choose to work with. I normally pick out about 20 classes, and I tell them just go ahead and go through this. And then after they finish the class, there'll be a certificate that issue once they complete the class. But yes, we do pay for that. I do pay for those classes. So every resident have to go through that, and licensing will look at their employee folder to make sure that they've done the training when they come for the inspection. So and they have to do it within the first 4 weeks of hire.
Thank
you.
Yep. I see one hand up. I'm going to butcher this name. Michelin?
Yes, I've had my message in there, my question there twice. So I decided to raise my hand. I have a client who is interested perhaps in this type of a program, not necessarily to be a caregiver, but a provider of the real estate. She has a lovely home. She would be in the upper
Yep.
echelon in terms of property values. So it would be somebody like a Golden Girls who want to live together and they have, maybe they can take care of themselves. That was the other part of the question. What's a RAL? They, either way, because she's looking for to hold on to the property a little while longer while she moves away. So I wanted to know if this would be something that she might be interested in to somebody who
City and
is licensed. She
what
wouldn't
what
do
city
it.
and state is it?
San Jose, California.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she can rent
Take
it out. There are people looking for places. They would rent it and they'll turn it into an assisted living facility. So if she wants to keep the property, she can rent it out on a long-term lease. There are many people who cannot afford to buy the real estate, but they want to rent it and run it as an assisted living.
Okay. Yeah, I'll pass that on to her. What's an RAL?
residential assisted living, a smaller assisted living facility, residential, like a residential house type of situation.
Okay, where they don't need necessarily a caregiver, but say, for instance, like I had mentioned, a Golden Girl situation where they want to live together and provide,
Uh,
company for each other, not necessarily, maybe somebody look on them, but they don't need the daily activities care type situation.
Oh, so those
my,
are
my,
actually not
my,
ALF. There's more independent living or more like group home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that my opinion is that's more of a group home, what you just described, the Golden Girls situation. And RAL is a residential assisted living, which means that seniors come and live and like our facilities could be considered RALs. And we provide 24/7 caregivers. So, I mean, it kind of varies. It depends on exactly what your business model is and what your licensing uh requirements are and what licensing you set it up with.
Okay, now she is, like I said, a provider of the real estate. She doesn't necessarily want to run it
Sure, sure,
herself.
sure.
She's
Sure.
just looking for
She,
the income.
yeah, then hypothetically, she could rent it to someone like us, and then
Mm-hmm.
we could go in there and we could run it and do our thing with it. And then we pay
Okay.
her rent every month. And then instead of us being the owner, we would be a renter, and then we would sign a 5 or 10 year lease on that
Okay.
property.
Okay. You want to
Yeah.
put your information in the chat?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and I'll put Elsa and myself. Go ahead. Anything else before I move on to the next person?
I think Hong Sun had her hand up or him. Sure.
Yeah, hi, I have a quick question. First, thanks so much for all this information. It's very helpful. I have a question around the debt section investment standpoint. I guess how does the loan terms on these, and since it's very operationally more intensive, how does lender view it, I guess, compared to, say, multifamily loan?
Very good
We just
question.
go ahead, Elsa.
Yeah, so when you the loan for this is a little bit more challenging to get than multifamily. So a lot of time people would either go to like a local bank because they would do loan for both business and real estate. SBA, I think Yerson was about to say that we just did a refinance into an SBA loan. So SBA is also another type of loan that they would fund both business and real estate. So the rate is a little bit high for SBA, but you can get away with a very low down payment, and it's fairly easy to be able to get an SBA loan. It's just a lot of work, a lot of work to get it approved, but it's fairly easy to get.
Got it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Getting an
Along the
SBA loan is
lines,
very similar to a Fannie or Freddie loan.
along the
It's
lines
if you're
of
gonna get an SBA loan, I highly recommend that you talk to somebody. You work with somebody who's well versed in it, because there's a lot of detail. I think it's a lot harder than a Fannie Freddie loan. It's just because, especially if you have investor involved, um, like they're very particular with where the money come from, how you set up your businesses, and the loan could delay for months because of how you set it up. You know, where the money come from. Let's say you have investors that invest in it and they would send in fund before you close. Now they need to go to every single one of those investors and they're going to ask you to every of those investors have to prove to them where the money come from. So it's very complicated.
No, I'm trying to think.
Got it. And then the SBA loan is it's a recourse, right?
Okay, so
Have to personally guarantee.
You turn it on.
Correct.
Got it.
One of the questions that had come up was asking about what the liability is for the property owner and how do we separate owner versus operator in terms of entities like LLCs.
Liability would be just like any other real estate project, multiple LLCs. Every assisted living that we own and operate has 3 or 4 LLCs. And what was the other part of that question?
Is essentially how do we separate the owner from the operator in terms of the entities?
On top of the LLCs, though, we also have insurances for sure, liability insurance, and whenever anything crazy might pop up. Go ahead, Elsa. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so you definitely want to have an LLC for the business and an LLC for the real estate. And the way that we structure is that the real estate LLC rent the property to the operation LLC. So then that way, if something, you never get involved, like my name or Garrison's name or Sanjay's name, never on any of this. So that's how you kind of protect the real estate and the business. And in case, let's say you have a deficiency, if something happened, somebody sue the business and then licensing come and say, you're gonna have to shut down your business. You still have the real estate, and worst case scenario, you just have to apply for a new license and rent it again, and you run the business again. So that's how you kind of safeguard it. And if you are a syndicator, if you have investors, then you're gonna have to create a third LLC to kind of be the parent LLC that own both of this. So it's a little bit convoluted, but there are ways that you can structure in order to protect yourself. And of course, you definitely need to have liability. You are required to have liability insurance as well as property insurance for the real estate. Hope that answered your question, whoever asked that.
Go ahead, Miss Amari. I see your hand is up.
Yeah, thanks so much. I put it also in the chat. My ears perked up when you mentioned SBA, because that's what I've been going through, but it was to acquire an existing facility. So am I right to hear that you said that although difficult, you can still use SBA funding for property? Like if it's not an existing running cash flowing business, but there's a 12-bed property that can be transformed into assisted living, and it's commercially zoned. Is that something you can do via SBA 504?
I think the one that I got was a 7A or something. I can't remember. But is it
It was a 7A.
7B? Is it
7A.
currently 7A? Yeah. Is it currently operated as an AOF, or you're buying the property?
It was the one I'm looking at it was a residential, but then it was on the market and then the owner transformed it into an Airbnb because it didn't sell, but it's still, viable. But,
Because of that, I would talk to your lender.
Okay.
SBA loans are difficult to get. I would not be surprised if the SBA lender would not lend on that without assisted living income currently coming in. So then you would have to go get just thinking this through from a real estate perspective. So then you would have to go get some type of bridge funding. And this is what we did on the one that we built. We got gap funding, bridge funding for the first 2 years. And then whenever that loan was up, we then refinanced into an SBA loan.
Okay, and just can I piggyback on that real quick? The only way that the SBA will fund it is through like a franchise, like Majestic Residence. because they're SBA approved. You're shaking your head. No, don't do
No,
it.
yeah. No, you don't have to. You
No,
can
that's
just go
not
and get
true.
an SBA loan. You don't have to do it through a franchise or anything. And the nice thing with SBA is that they do look at your current, profit and loss statement, but their decision is based on the projection too. So our 30 beds, the one that we built, because we just started operate that this year, so we're not at full occupancy yet, but they want to see the 3 years projection, and they will loan you the money based on that projection, not just the current, not just your current balance sheet. So that's the nice thing about SBA, and depend on who you work with. So there are a lot of SBA lenders out there you want to work with. Not all of them will say yes to it. I thought it was all the same, but no. I had experience where I worked with one, and it's a big one. Everyone know about them. They out there at every conference, have their booth.
And they're
I work with
horrible.
them, and
Live
halfway
Oak
through it,
Bank.
halfway they go, I cannot do your deal, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
With all those promises, so I had to look for a new one. So it really depends on who you work with too. Not all of
Okay.
not all SBA lenders are the same.
So you did mention the correct name. Is
Yeah,
that dude's name Magby or something like that? I can't
I
remember.
don't even remember, but they're so big that they've become snobby now, and I don't want to work with them. So
Yeah, they're horrible. They were horrible. So they said no, no, no to us after months and months of stringing us along. And then we switched over to a different lender, and then it was night and day. It was like, yes, we can do it. This is how we're going to do it. It was night and day. The professionalism was amazingly different.
okay, so if I had more questions, it would go through the coaching, but it's a wait list. So what do you recommend? Because I have tons of questions. I've been in this research mode for months now.
Um, Sign up for that wait list for the coaching program. Whenever I see your name on there, I'll have my assistant shoot over your information to me, and then I'll reach out to you directly, and then I'll interview you, and we'll talk about it,
Sounds
and
good.
we'll talk about some of your questions.
Okay,
I'll
thanks.
hop on a call with you maybe as early as maybe this weekend or the next couple days.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
No, perfect. Miss Hong San, do you have another question, or is your hand still up from before? I'm thinking that's up from before. Sanjay, we're way over time. We're at about an hour and a half now. I appreciate the 40 people that hung in there. Any questions that we missed in the chat below before I hit the end record button?
Just someone asked about where we purchase facilities. That one I can answer. Currently, we have facilities in California, specifically Fresno, and I'm looking in Northern Virginia, or in and around Northern Virginia. So
And
that's
something else that's interesting, you're talking about purchasing facilities, is a lot of assisted living facilities, most assisted living facilities are not for sale on the open market. You got to build the relationships with the brokers, the realtors, other people in this space. Because most are not publicly listed for a reason. Think about it. You don't want a family member to see that a facility's up for sale, then they don't want their family member living in there because they're unsure who the new owner operator is going to be. So another part of this business that is very relationship oriented.
right.
Other than that, Sanjay, anything we missed in the chat below?
Just to follow up on what you said, usually
ask
if
a
it
question?
gets listed, it's a distress, by then it's probably a distressed property. So,
Yeah, or 100% vacant, like I think it was Amari mentioned a little bit ago.
okay.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Uh, Earlier, you guys said that there's one thing you wish you knew before starting an assisted living facility, and I don't know if you answered that or if I missed it.
I
What?
did answer that. What I did say at that point in time, there's two of them. One of them is we should have started networking and marketing a lot sooner than what we did. We kind of dove into that a little bit, where this is very relationship built business. And we thought we were going to put the big banner out front. Do you remember me saying that? I thought we were going to put this big banner out front. Hey, we're open for business, assisted living now open. We thought the doors were going to blow off this place and we're going to fill it up. And that was not the case. Um, were you here for that part of the conversation or no?
You're
Hello?
muted, CC, if
Oops,
you're.
no, sorry, I missed that.
Oh, okay.
think I got
Yeah.
your
So
wrapped
number
up.
one thing, the number one thing I wish I would have done differently was start marketing and networking so much
Gotcha.
sooner.
Cool.
Number one. Number two, something else I didn't quite realize is seniors pass away regularly. I hate to say that, and it makes sense when you think about it, but it goes back to the networking once again, where you're always networking, building the relationships, staying in front of the people that you build these relationships with. Skilled nursing facilities, placement agencies, insurance companies, all of that gamut of people that we network with that throws referrals our ways, hospital dispatch nurses, things of that sort. Because you might be at 100% occupancy, 100% occupancy, and then all of a sudden 3, 4 people pass away. It happens way more than I would have expected, or I mean, I just never really thought about it before, but it happens often. And that's something we talk about in-house regularly. And it's a sad part of the business, but it's a real part of the business.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
If one of the things, would you buy or an existing one or start one or just, take a house or a building and convert it? Or which would be the preferred way?
Hi, hindsight being 2020, we went and we bought a facility in Fresno, California. Elsa lives in Silicon Valley, California, which is 3 hours away from Fresno. I was living at the beaches in Florida. I then came and babysit the construction part of it, and we were both kind of new to Fresno. Even though she doesn't live in Fresno, we don't have relationships there, especially relationships in this industry. Um, Looking back on it, I would have never opened up a brand new one from the start. A godsend to our business was simultaneously then buying the second facility that had a great reputation since 1991. And we were able to build off of that relationship for both facilities. Then I would start going to networking events and saying, "Hey, my name's Garrison. Hey, this is Elsa. Hey, we own Elam Place, which has been around since 1991." And people be like, oh my God, I know Elam Place. That place is great. I love that place. And so that helped us out with the brand new build. Looking back on it, if I was just going to do one facility and do a brand new build and I don't have relationships in this industry and this is not something I grew up in, I would not do it again. That's my 2 cents. Elsa, do you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I honestly, I never a fan working with city government. That like if they want something, they want right away. But if we want something from them, it'll take a year. Like we wait for what 1 month now just for them to come and do the final inspection and sign off on one of our project.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have to live, you have to work begging for their favors, which I think is wrong. But I would buy a vacant facility, a house, or just a commercial building, and that already zoned for assisted living. And then I would convert it because, it's hard work, but at the same time, that is kind of where the money come in, because you could buy a facility for, let's say, $3 million, but you build up, you put the beds in there and you convert it and fill it up, and you may turn it around and sell it for $8 million. Because the business is what really drives the values of the property up. And that's kind of what we're hoping to do with Elam Place, is that we bought it for 5, but hopefully through our marketing, our plan, we would be able to turn it around and sell it for $8 million at some point in time.
Yeah.
So I would do that.
So I really like the Elam Place business model. That's our memory care facility. 44 bed, been around since 1991, but the family who owned it and operated it, they weren't efficient with it. They weren't business people, right? So we were able to implement systems and processes, and we were able to raise the rent some and increase occupancy some. So whenever we bought it, I went and mystery shopped it. She didn't know that I had it under contract. And I said, "Hey, I'm looking for a place for my mother. I want to come tour your facility." She's like, "We're at 100% occupancy. It would be a year before I could get your mom in here." And I'm like, "That's bullshit. You have 25 people on a 44. I know that's not accurate." But to her, 25 was her maximum occupancy. Even though she was licensed for 44, that was her comfort level. So our value add on that property was just going from 25 residents to 40 residents. We can increase the value of that property by a couple $1 million without necessarily doing a big renovation. So increasing the efficiency and increasing the income and lowering the expenses was a big part of that property. And I particularly like that business model. I didn't have to start from scratch. I was still able to pay the mortgage from day one. And I was still had a big value creation down the road.
And either way, one of the biggest things, even around here, but I remember when I came out to Fresno, I actually secret shopped our own facility and a couple of others that we were looking at. So
Yeah. Perfect. Any other questions from anyone? Speak up, speak up. I
Yes,
am
I'd like
going,
to know,
oh,
I
go
really,
ahead.
really appreciate this, Barbara, again. I really appreciate all the information. And I heard you say what you would do differently if you were starting all over. But I'd like to know, in your experience, what have been the challenges, what have been the downsides of this type of business?
Challenges and downsides. Well, we're real estate people naturally from a background, right? So this is real estate, but real estate on steroids. This is a lot of operations. And you're not just operating a business, you're operating a business that people depend on. You know, seniors don't sleep, meaning you have to provide care for them 24/7, 365 days a year, no matter what. So initially, whenever we got into this business, we didn't have the processes, the systems to implement because we didn't know what we didn't know. And yeah, we had a consultant, and yes, we hired a management team. And probably one of the biggest redos I would do is we hired a management team because the SBA loan required us to have a management team with X amount of years of experience. So we had a management team that we paid $10,000 a month to. And just to be blunt about it, and straight to the point, they were less than efficient. They were horrible. Maybe horrible is not the word, but they were less than efficient. They wasted a lot of money. They wasted a lot of time. Their solution to every problem was, you need to hire this person, Garrison. You need a front desk person to answer the phones and greet the people coming in the doors. Garrison, you need to hire a new manager for the kitchen at X amount of. Their solution to everything was throw money at it. Whenever you're a smaller mid-sized facility, you don't have the resources that a
Right.
management company might want you to have. Um, so that would be one of the biggest downsides to it, is we were forced into a position through the SBA loan that we had a management company. We didn't want a management company. We fired that management company on month 8 or 9 or 7 or something like that. And things got so much better whenever Elsa and myself and Sanjay overtook that facility. And we did things that we knew we were doing the right thing, but for example, the first 2 months, Elsa cut over $5,000 in expenses off of our books, on top of the $10,000 a month that the management company was charging us. That's a
Wow.
$15,000 a month difference on a 40-bed facility that only had 25 residents. That's huge. That's huge.
What kind of
So
costs was she able to reduce or get rid of?
internet, we were paying $1,000 a month. Now we're paying 200, 300 a month. TV, we were paying 500 a month. And now we're paying 200 a month. Payroll, we were paying. Elsa, what are the payroll numbers?
Yeah,
Do you
so
remember?
some of the obvious thing that we cut, I mean, internet and TV, there wasn't too much saving in it, but like for a 40 people company, we have like 30 resident. I don't need a billing company to do, to pay the bills for me. That out the gate is $270 a month that I save.
Payroll processing.
Payroll, they use a PEO, which I pay. They pay over $2,000 a month in payroll fee a month. Whereas right now I switch it over to Gusto and I pay $348 a month. That's a $2,000 saving right there, right?
Um,
So a little bit here and there, without having to cut employees, I save money in terms of that. I switch insurance company and I save money. We also, let's say they had a company come and bring a big old printer, which you will see in big corporation, and he leased that, and we pay $600 a month to lease that printer, which we make like 10 copies a day. Like I don't need a big printer, so I went out to Costco and I bought a $200 printer, right? That saved me $600 a month. So there's a lot of like little here and there that I
But it
cut.
all added up. It all
adds
added up.
up. It adds up.
Yeah.
So that's how I
And
was able to save money.
Please come to
and
my
even something
house.
even something as simple as they switched over the chemical company, the cleaning supply
Mhm.
company that
Right.
this facility's been using for decades. They switched it over to a different cleaning supply company that mixes their own chemicals, and the price tripled, number one, and the quality depleted, number two. So really, we went back to some of the things that the facility had when we purchased it, that the management company then implemented. That we were like, this is horrible. Um, and then some of it was just stuff that we took and implemented and decreased and got more efficient at. And all in all, it equaled into be about a $5,000-6,000 a month difference, which is huge for any small business, no matter how you
Oh,
look
yeah,
at it.
for sure.
$6,000 a month times 12 months, that's 70, $80,000 a year. Um, that's a good paycheck. Plus
Yeah.
the $10,000 a month we alleviated from the management fee. It was a $10,000 minimum plus a percentage of rental income if we meet a certain threshold, which we never
Mhm.
did meet because they were only there the first 6, 7, 8 months. But that's how the management company worked. But the SBA loan required it. We knew it wasn't a great idea from the get-go, but we did what we had to do in order to get that SBA loan. But then we cut ties, and they knew that they were wrong with some of the stuff that they did and implemented, so much so that they were willing to cancel their contract with us with no harm, no foul. Hey, good luck to you. We appreciate everything you've done, and we shook hands and parted
Well,
ways.
Wow,
Garrison, I
that's
mean,
great.
yeah, beside the SBA requirement, I have to say that, we were going from a 30-bed to 44, assisted living to memory care. There's a lot of unknown factor that we don't know. And this management company in the business forever. So to me, that's like consultant fee that I'm paid to learn from them. And I did
Yeah.
learn. I mean, I did learn quite a bit from them as
Oh
well,
yeah.
to give them
They're
that.
not bad people. So don't let me
No, yeah, and,
so don't
and
let
they are
me
very amicable. I'm still in touch with them right now. I just talked to Andrew today. But with that being said, that's something that we learned along the way. And after 6 months, I feel like, we're actually comfortable of running this company on our own right now without needing a consulting company to help
Sure.
us. So yeah, we tighten our belt a little bit. We save money here and there, but it wasn't really like a waste of money, just to put it that way. And that's the experience. You have to pay to learn, right? So that's something that we learn from them as well, because they are very experienced in this business.
So that's fair. I mean, you had some good experience from it. You learned from it. They just weren't
Yeah.
ideal when it came to the efficiency. So glad you were able to get out of that contract. And wow, thank you very much. This has been very helpful. If I had to put someone in residential care again, I would probably ask more questions. And but I have to tell you, the choices uh, aren't always ideal,
Yep.
that are
and
available. And I
Uh,
did,
uh,
my mom was in manor care for assisted living, long-term care. And at the time it was great. They just didn't have any real activities for them. So it was really boring for her. And at the
sure.
residential care home, they just sat the residents in front of a TV all day. They had games, they had other things, but they told me, oh, the residents don't like that.
Yep.
And I
You can't everyone's got a different want and need into the facility, so that's something you got to take into account whenever
sure.
you go into a community like that. It's not just all about you and your mother, unfortunately.
Yeah.
right,
So thank you very much. This has been really informative. Nice to meet
Awesome.
you.
yeah.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. We are way over our time allowance. This is part one of our assisted living series. We're going to do the exact same thing next week or next month, I should say. Slightly different topic, all assisted living, but a slightly different part of the business. So everyone on this call will be getting an invite to that call. You registered once, your registration is good for all of them. I appreciate everyone hopping on here. I'm going to end the recording.